Welcome to the Heart of Racing podcast, made alongside our great mates at Ladbrokes. Neil Breen here with you, my partner in crime, Will Freedman. How are you, Will?
Good. We're into winter racing now, really, aren't we?
I've got to let the viewers and the listeners and the fans of this show in on a little secret.
Yeah.
Right, in the life of a trainer.
Yeah.
Because as we've been preparing to record just now,
there's a bloopers reel.
You were trying to watch one of yours refuse to go into the barrier at the trials at Rose Hill.
Yeah. One that needed to load, but anyway, it
didn't load.
Now I got Richard calling me. It's all freaking happening. Anyway, what do? Just move on.
The last thing you want is Dad calling after a horse refuses to load.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's get into it, mate. We've got stacks to get through. The pineapple. We'll quickly do a pineapple this week for a Shocker of the Week award. I couldn't think of one.
It was pretty sedate racing, really. I saw one. It was one. I can't remember the name of it. I remember it was one of Waller's in the Star Thoroughbreds colours mid-race. It sort of got like they all got off the fence, right?
Yeah.
And I know jockeys don't want to go to inferior ground. I get that, but if you take the punt to go wide and then you get short of it ran second. I mean, I'll look it up through the show. But anyway, it ran second. I don't know who was riding it, but didn't take the inside run.
Went the wide run,
got blocked, then came off heels, had to go again, ran second. And
the problem is when everything wants to go wide, it becomes a lottery.
I'm going to try and look it up as we're talking. But it was, but there's a point. What they don't understand is sometimes all the horses getting off the fence means that the horse on the inside's actually not on inferior ground. They're actually on decent ground, but they just commit to going wider and wider and wider. It was, I get the feeling it might be Tommy, and he might not like this, but I'm just looking at the result here, and it ran second. It was a huge run. Demiana, J. Ford.
Oh, yes.
Demiana.
Yes.
And Southern Chile one, right?
Yeah.
But it was flying, and it went for a run. It sort of opened up. To be fair, the horse didn't take the gap, but it closed quickly, and then Jay had to cross heels and go again. Look, it wasn't a disaster ride, but
you'd be dirty if you owned it.
If you had $10 on her to win, then you'd be like, shit.
Yeah, you would be. Sayonara, I'm going to say goodbye to Jimmy Starr.
Yeah.
Like,
it's a controversial one, though, isn't it?
I don't know. He's one of those horses who's going to be favourite forever and a day.
Yeah.
But I don't know, he's starting to look like a non-winner.
Yeah, he is.
He is, and these things are there for him if he's as good as they thought he was.
I thought he had every chance on Saturday.
He did.
You know, like
he did. He should have won that race.
But to be fair, it wasn't. There were no mugs. The
it
horses
was
that
a good
won.
Race. It was a good race.
Annabelle Quinella did, I think. So
I'm just saying sayonara to him on the basis that they thought he was going to be a Group 1 star. He's not going to be.
But he might be in time.
Tip him out and give him a rest now. Have you got one?
Yeah, I do actually. I have sayonara-ing two that are running this weekend.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
not going retrospectively. I'm saying
you're a proactive man, yes.
Yeah.
What do you got for me?
I don't think Detonator Jack is going that well.
In the Hawkesbury Gold Cup?
Yeah.
Sayonara to it? Okay.
Yeah, I'm not keen on it. I think it's not as going as well, albeit if it gets heavy out there like it did at Kembla in the Gong, could change things up. I'm saying just generally, I'd be weary of it. I'm not backing it at the short price.
It could look. Saturday's racing could be anything at Hawkesbury.
Yeah, it's not.
It could be a soft 5. It could be a heavy 10.
They haven't had much rain yet. They missed all the rain that Sydney got.
They could get it,
but they could get some today. And if they get it on race day, the track will capitulate, no doubt. And the other one is Duol, which I think we're going to get to. I think it's in the Guineas. Could be
Duol in the Guineas,
or maybe it's in the Sprint. I think it's in the Sprint. Yeah. In the Hawkesbury Rush.
And you don't think it can win?
No.
Okay, rightio. I like your sayonara's. Now, the So Simple this week, we've had a long discussion about it, you and I, Will Freedman. And I'm going with your suggestion. Take it away. I like it.
Well, the Autumn Sun, from an industry point of view,
as a sire,
was ruled off. Like, no more. Like, everyone was off them. You could buy them good, beautiful type of horses for under service fee at the sales this year.
So because he just
didn't have early 2-year-olds
quite there. Yeah.
And I have had a good conversation with Paul Massara, John Massara about this, and there's just no one's given them enough time.
Yeah.
And then you see since the start of autumn, he's won 2 Group 1s.
Yeah,
as a sire.
with late season or second half of season 3-year-olds.
Yeah.
And that might be what they are.
And then he trifected the South Australian Oaks. So not just one, but all 3 place getters were all by the Autumn Sun.
That's amazing.
Vibrant Sun winning. I mean, don't get me wrong. We discussed last week, SA Oaks is not,
But still, mate, you buy a horse at a yearling sale and 2 years later it wins the South Australian Oaks or the
happy,
Australasian Oaks. You're happy as Larry.
And the only thing I'd say is the Australasian Oaks, which is the SA Oaks, there's good horses have come out of that race. Like, it's not, these have been weak fields, and the rest of the field may never win a maiden.
Man, any group weight race as a 2 or 3-year-old
so
with a filly is a good race to win because you get value as a broodmare.
I think the Autumn Sun is going to be a really good bread and butter middle distance sire, and Australia's been crying out for one of them. We've got sprinting sires.
Look, it's because this whole fever has developed over many years now of, the intoxication and the excitement of the Magic Million sales in the early January, where horses are basically 15 months old.
Mm.
And you go there and you buy your horse and all that sort of stuff. And, right. Actually, by the way, you mightn't get to the racetrack for 2.5 years.
I know.
And people go, what?
Yeah. It's a
I'm
long
excited
process,
now. It's
isn't
a
it?
long, and people have to be prepared.
It's a bit like buying a puppy, right? But just saying you're not only going to be able to go and let it go and interact with other dogs in 8 months. People are all right with that. But people are always in a rush, want to get a return on investment. But people need to stop looking at racehorses as investments. Like, but it's a hobby.
But you and I, and we've got some partners and everything, and we picked up a nice horse at the English Classic sale. And the dam was by Savabeel. And we know, because we're adult enough to know, we won't even nominate it for the slipper.
No. Well,
it's not going to be a slipper horse.
And that's the part of racing that will change in time, is people are...
We'll just sit tight.
Yeah, and if you can be patient as an owner and buy an Autumn Sun and say, okay, well, we won't race it at 2, or unlikely, maybe the back end of its 2-year-old career.
Just tick it over in and out of the stable.
And then the 3-year-old career is very important. And that's like its 2-year-old career for other sires, So... And
we won't push it as a 2-year-old because we don't want it to be injured and hamper its chances of being a good 3-year-old.
Honestly, running in stakes races as a 3-year-old, I would say if you bought 5 horses that looked like later maturing horses that could get over ground, I'd say there's every chance you'll have 2 or 3 of them run in stakes races as 3-year-olds. If you buy 5 sprinting-looking 2-year-olds, you may be lucky to race 1 in a stakes race. You know, like that's the reality. Like, and this is why I think the Autumn Sun's going to become much more popular over the next 2 years, is because people like racing at Flemington and Rosehill and Randwick. If you want to do that, wait another 9 months. Yeah, I get it. It's annoying, and you're going to pay bills for it, but then you get what you want.
You get what you want.
You race it on the big stage on the big days. Okay, you may not win the big race, but you're going to be there.
You're going to be there.
And I just think,
like it.
I just think
let's go find ourselves an Autumn Sun.
Yeah, we'll do that. I'll talk to Arrowfield. See if they can lease us one for the show, and we'll get the listeners in.
Yeah, let's lease an Autumn Sun off them.
Yeah, and we might get Ladbrokes to put in their racing club.
Yeah, let's do that.
Let's do it.
Rightio. Okay, you've sold me. Gaze Fly. There's a couple of issues this week that I want to discuss with you, and I saw something that your father retweeted, and it was a story about Sheila Laxon saying she's worried about the future of racing because you become a fan of things when you're a kid. And I read what Sheila Laxon said, and I thought about myself. Okay, I'm a fan of horse racing. Why am I a fan of horse racing? Because Dad owned a horse called So Simple, which is why we got the So Simple. In the 1970s when I was a kid, then he had another horse. And so I went to Eagle Farm in Doomben and to the stables in and around there all the time before I turned 10. I'm a fan of all football codes because I watched them all the time as a kid. And it's kind of true.
Yeah.
It's kind of true. It's rare that when you're 35, you become an absolute, total and utter European soccer nut.
Yep, I agree.
If you weren't interested in it when you were a kid. And it made me think about racing. Now, I've got 3 children, Will.
Yeah.
Juliet's 19, Matilda's just about to turn 16, Harry's 9, turning 10. I cannot get them interested.
No.
I've taken them to the races. I've taken them to the stables. And the last time I took Harry, just on any old Saturday afternoon to a benchmark meeting it was at Randwick, there was nothing there for him to do except eat a meat pie. I mean, not one thing.
So let's break this down into different categories, right? The betting product has the experience to bet has gone up exponentially.
Yeah.
Like, okay, we all miss the old ring.
Excitement of the ring
like,
and the
yeah, we
cash
get
and
that. But
everything.
in terms of the experience, the availability to bet, the consistency of races, it all being planned, has exponentially over the last 40 years. What has not changed much is the experience at the races. So,
except on a day like the Everest and things like that. But people go, oh, the Everest is the greatest thing since sliced bread. And it probably is. But guess what? When I was in my 20s and I first, I could go to Sydney. I'm old enough now to take myself to Sydney to go to see the Doncaster. Those days were just the same as that. They were massive.
Yeah.
People forget now. But, the Melbourne Cup.
60, 70,000 people at the races.
I first went to the Melbourne Cup in 1991. When Let's Elope won, there was 98,000 people there.
So
it's not brand new that there's a big crowd at the races.
No, and so what happens, right, is there's not enough engagement, like you said.
On a regular basis.
But something for people to follow. Like, okay, in the middle of football season, it's hard to get people into racing because the football is tribal. The people, it's a crossover. There's a huge crossover.
Yeah.
But when we get into November, when we get into December, when we get into January, when there's no football, that's our prime time. This is main
it's summer
season.
and you want to be outside and kids run around. And...
people like watching cricket, but a lot of people don't like watching cricket all day. Like they're actually finding a sport that they want to get behind. But in essence, if I'm at the races, unless I'm betting on particular horses, what am I following? Like we talked just before, it's like I got no issue with the big stables of what they've done. Great business model, fantastic.
But the big stables are dominating.
But it's taken away competitiveness. Like, why can't we have a team element to racing? And I know this has been brought up 50 times, and you've got Richard Callan who's telling you can't do it, and I get that it has not worked, but we have not tried it for long enough. Like, we haven't committed to a concept and been like, let's see this through.
Because
I like
so
it.
This is what LIV Golf has, and LIV Golf is sort of working in fits and starts around the globe, but it's worked in Australia because we've been starved of top class golf. Then last Sunday there were scenes in Adelaide when the Aussies team, which is called the Rippers, were in a playoff. What were they playing for? What, a team win in the LIV Golf in Adelaide? But people went berserk. I mean, berserk. Channel 7 had 3 million viewers over the weekend. 3 million people watched this LIV Golf.
And this is a part of the problem with the disjointed nature of the state-by-state,
with racing,
is we don't have a circuit. Do you know what I mean? Like, we don't have the top jockeys in the world going from Adelaide to Sydney,
they're
to
all
Melbourne.
splintered.
They're all, and that's part of the problem. And I know it's been the way, and I'm not chastising what the clubs have done and what the
it's dog eat dog, and every
man
and woman for themselves.
But could you imagine, like, people would become tribal about horses from their state if they were on the circuit and you had James McDonald and all of them racing at South Australia for 2 weeks, and Sydney took horses down because there were bonuses if the New South Wales team got more prize money. So, like, do you know what I mean? Like,
there's something there. Look, I think, Will, the opportunity is with night racing. And I know the Gold Coast track is a disaster, which is a shame, but they're going to go to night racing.
Not the first time this has happened either. People are like, Gold Coast, like, what a disaster. Randwick took 3 goes at getting it right.
Eagle Farm took about 3 as well.
Like, don't bash Gold Coast. It's not a perfect science. It's not like, just do what you do here and do it there.
It can happen.
Very subtle.
But those night racing meetings, so Canterbury and they have Cranbourne and all those places, if there's more of them, I just think there is a way for an innovative administrator to get the crowd involved more by, there is a team. There's the Friedman brothers and Bjorn Baker and someone else are a team.
Yeah.
And they're
Well,
called
you do it.
they're
Called
called the Westies.
But do it race course by race course. You got Rose Hill, Warwick Farm, and Randwick.
Yeah, and there's something, and there's an incentive. So when you go in, you pick what team that you're going to cheer for tonight, and if your team wins on the night, there's a prize element.
Yeah.
There's a tent at the Everest, or there's
But also, like,
I think it can be done.
Canterbury's been a revelation with what they've done on the lawn, but the grandstand is so outdated.
Oh, it's
like
terrible.
it may as well not be there. Like,
terrible.
or take away the back end of it. Just have the seats because it's so dull in the. Like, this is what I mean, how betting the product has increased with corporate bookmakers all putting money in to try and make it more competitive. But the ATC, who have been starved of money, to be fair, like, the experience of going to the races needs to improve and needs to cater for young people to get involved.
Look, it simply has to. Look, I could go to the races and be perfectly happy if I was a single man 7 days a week.
Yeah, 100%.
I could go to the track wherever they were racing in and around Sydney.
But also, like,
No problem.
The food markets
But
work.
my kids don't want to come.
No, but there's nothing. Well, actually, they probably like Canterbury night races because
Yeah,
there
yeah.
is stuff for them there.
I
you
know.
But
I just find the location a bit difficult. Friday night, getting out of
you
school.
live so far on the east,
Oh,
you know.
turn it up. Yeah, turn it up. Rightio. Well, that was a good issue to get stuck into. We'll get to our tips for the weekend very soon, but now it's time to go to Tom Hackett from Ladbrokes. He'll give us a weekend update on what's happening in and around the big betting giant.
Thanks, Breeny. Another weekend of racing where all the attention will be on Morfordville. The Group 1 South Australian Derby is the feature race, and a bit like the Australasian Oaks last week, it's a very, very competitive affair, and it's actually a filly that comes out of the Australasian Oaks, Coco Sun, that is the clear favourite with Ladbrokes early, and it's been very popular with the Ladbrokes punters, $7 into $4.50. Warmonger has drawn barrier 14, still on the second line of betting at $5.50. Bold Soul won the traditional lead up. It's on this third line of betting at $7. But if you're looking for a bit of value in this race, glad you think so. Blake Shin goes into the saddle, drawn a little bit sticky, but this horse raced really well in the Australian Derby. Definitely will get a strong 2,500 metres. If it can replicate that Australian Derby effort, it'll be right there in the mix. So it's Morfordville, race number 8. Number 6, glad you think so, I think can run really well. The feature race in Queensland is the Queensland Guineas as Stradbroke season gets underway proper. It's the final race on the card at Eagle Farm, and it's a very, very competitive affair. Ducasse for Michael Friedman is the favourite. Drawn a little bit sticky in barrier 16. It's still $6 with Ladbrokes. Godolphin have got Razors, who's $7. Kintyre, a very consistent galloper, $7.50. But I think this is another race where there's a bit of value to be found. And Mr. Kipchoge is my long-term pick to win the Queensland Derby. It was a horse that was good first up in the South Pacific Classic. Ran some of the fastest closing sectionals in the race. Has been set for the Queensland Derby now. I think will be better suited over further than the 1,600 metres on Saturday, but I still think it can run really well at a nice price. You're getting $17 to win, $5 to place for number 18, Mr. Kipchoge in the Queensland Guineas. Enjoy the weekend, boys. Another monster weekend of racing to enjoy, and back to you in the studio.
Thanks, Tom. This is the Heart of Racing, mate. Alongside our mates at Ladbrokes. Next up, Will and I give you what we think will be the best bets across all the states, racing everywhere on the weekend they are. Take on the fun with Ladbrokes. Download the Ladbrokes app today for all your favourite racing features like Black Book, Yard Comments and more. You win some, you lose more. For free and confidential support, visit gamblinghelponline.org.au. Welcome back to the Heart of Racing, mate, alongside our mates at Ladbrokes. Let's get into the form for the weekend. We've got the standalone meeting at Hawkesbury. So over the next 3 weekends in and around Sydney, there's a Hawkesbury standalone, a Gosford standalone, and then they go to Scone for the 2-day carnival on the Friday and Saturday. There's no metropolitan meeting in Sydney as such. The Hawkesbury Gold Cup, over a mile, Group 3, Will Friedman. I'll run you through the main chances now. Kieran Maher, fair income. He's got the top 3 in the market. Detonator Jack, $4.20. It's the favourite. Nugget, it's $4.60. Berkshire Shadow at $8. It's barrier 20, though. It's a stinking barrier. Just Folks at $9.50 alongside Wellwall. What do you like here? I know you don't like Detonator Jack.
No, I don't like Detonator Jack. I don't think it's going that well.
I don't think Nugget's going that well. I'm a Nugget man.
It's a bit of a lackluster sort of goal. Like,
I was a bit disappointed
it's not
in that field.
It's not a bad. It's usually a pretty good form reference for the Scone Cup in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
I'd say a lot of them will be repeat offenders there. I like Just Folk, but again, I'm not overly...
I'm going to go wide. I'm just going to wait and see what the track's like. I think it's difficult. You've got two favourites there that I don't know that they.
Yeah, it's like when you're 420 the field, are usually good indication.
If it pours with rain, then Detonate Jack's not out of it.
But I reckon Just Folk at each way odds is pretty good.
Is the good one.
Yep.
Hawkesbury Guineas, 1,400 metres. It's Group 3 for the 3-year-olds. Schwartz for John O'Shea and J-Mac. So J-Mac's riding at Hawkesbury on Saturday, the $3.40 favourite. Do you see him on Romantic Warrior on Sunday night in Hong Kong? He loves that horse.
He loves it.
Another
He was
Group
almost
1.
crying, wasn't he?
I know. He loves that horse.
But
$7, raises. Butch Cassidy, $7.50. Conasana, $8. Panic at $10. I don't even know where to look here.
I am going away from Schwartz.
It's a pretty short favourite,
I know.
considering second favourite's at $7 and it's $3.40.
It's another one you still need to watch the race, because what you'll find is, even though Hawkesbury's a big track,
Yeah.
sometimes the leaders do get away.
They do get away. And you think, oh, my horse is coming out of here. And then when they come past the camera, you go, it's actually 2 lengths behind.
Yeah, it's an ordinary camera angle. It has been for a long time.
It's a bizarre
Yeah,
camera
and what
angle.
happened was they actually moved the winning post.
Yeah, beyond
to-
the grandstand.
I think it was another 100 metres past.
Yeah.
Because they
lengthened
were
the
they were
straight.
going to build a grandstand further down, so you'd cross there. But I think
They ran out of money.
yeah.
Yeah, so when you watch Hawkesbury on the weekend, if you
Yeah.
haven't watched much racing from there, beware.
But to be fair,
because the finish post is 100 metres past the grandstand.
to be fair with the track being a little more, having a bit more moisture in it, it can play a bit fairer. If it's rock hard, they sort of skip along and they just kick. So I like Butch Cassidy. I mean, can you find a better training combination or a more informed training combination than Gain Adrian? So
No.
You know,
I can't.
I'm at $7.50. Like I'm taking a few longer ones.
That's about the price on the weekend.
Yeah.
I reckon that's
and
where
if
all
you
your
land
winners...
one or two, you'll be ahead. You know.
Hawkesbury Crown, 1,300 metres. It's Group 3 for fillies and mares. Shadows of Love for Kim War. She loves this horse. It's the $3.20 favourite. It's been in good form. Win. Ran third last start. Willinga Beast, $7. Ganati, $6.50. Miss Hellfire, $8.50. Madam Pomeroy is at $7.50. I know you like Shadows of Love.
Yeah, I think it's the best horse in the race. I thought it was...
Stick with the best horse.
Yeah, this is one that I would take a bit of... I
Bit of
have a
short
lot
odds.
of time for that for Shadows of Love. Look, Willinga Beast is no mug, but I do think Shadows of Love is, you know, I actually think it's a deserved stakes horse, and Kim's done an exceptional job with her. They got it ready for the provincial championships. Drops back to 1,300. Few ticks.
She has done an amazing job with that horse. Let's go to Morfordville, the South Australian Derby. It's over 2,500 metres. Coco Sun, the filly, after a third in the Australasian Oaks over 2,000 metres last weekend, is the $4.20 favourite. I think it's a false favourite. Warmonger is at $5.50. Bowl Soul, $7.50. Antrim Coast is at $8. Now... Ariri, I think it's called, but it's Ahuriri. Ariri. It won the St. Ledger at Flemington over 2,800 metres last start. Donkey licked them for Waller and Craig Williams. Is $9.50. That's the horse I like.
Well,
It's a filly. Fillies don't often win this race, but
yeah, but
gee, it beat them.
yeah.
But you think it beat nothing?
Well, I don't mind Coco Sun. We'll go head to head.
Okay,
here.
we'll go.
I don't
the
mind,
fillies head to head.
I don't mind horses on the back up, particularly 3-year-old staying fillies. Like, you look at it in the spring, they back up and they do it
They go
again.
Wakeful Oaks.
In 4 or 5
5
days. You know, so I like the concept. Whether it's good enough or not, like this doesn't seem like a Group 1, does it?
It does not seem like a Group 1.
Is it a Group 1?
Honestly,
It is, isn't it?
Yes, it is. The Patton Committee, you know, that doesn't like the Everest or the Golden Eagle. Okay, whatever. But they're happy to make other races like the Percy Sykes and these new races that come along for 2-year-old fillies, you know, in our spring group races straight away.
Yeah, I know.
And then you've got this one still a Group 1. I think I just think it's laziness that it shouldn't be a Group 1. It's a Group 2 race. I even think the Queensland Derby is a Group 2 race. Anyway, the QE2 Cup, 2,500 metres, another 2,500 metre race. This is for the older horses. It's Group 3. The top 3 in the market are numbers 1 to 3. The Map, $2.50. First Immortal, 2 average runs after a first up win is at $3. Aberfeldy Boy at $3.70. Just keep an eye on Aberfeldy Boy because it's also accepted for a benchmark 100 at Caulfield on Saturday, which just has a benchmark meeting. So $3.70. Write your own ticket for the rest of them. I wouldn't have a clue what to do here. I think we have to wait and see whether Aberfeldy Boy's going to go to Adelaide or Caulfield.
It's a bit of a shame First Immortal hasn't really stepped up. Like, it was a
I
real
thought he was
boom.
going to be a real good horse.
Yeah.
And he won first up.
Yeah. It's just,
Maybe he'll do the Bizzo on Saturday in this race.
I know that Kavanagh, like Mark and Levi, will want to win a race like this. Like, they're Adelaide locals. So, I think First Immortal at his best is better than this bunch.
Rightio, Eagle Farm, the Queensland Guineas. It's race 9, the Queensland Guineas. It's over a mile. It's Group 2. Some good horses have won the Queensland Guineas over the years. Wide open. Michael Friedman's Ducasse is the $6 favourite. It's $6. Raises for Godolphin, $8. Kintyre, Gary Portelli, $7. Port Lockroy, $8.50. Presslink, $7. Transatlantic, $9. Robrick, $8.50. So they're very compressed between sort of $6 and $9, all of those horses.
Ducasse should be shorter than he is. I think he should be about $3. But
wow.
Like,
well, we should be backing it.
Well, if you like him, you're getting overs. I think that.
Yeah.
I think it'll come in. But I kind of like raises for Godolphin as well. And I have a lot of time for Port Lockroy. I think it's been running good races, just hasn't been winning. It'll win a race like this. Whether it's getting ready for like a Queensland derby, you know.
Or something.
But even when it ran in the
Grand Prix,
I think it was
something.
the Spring Champion. It ran in the Spring Champion behind. God, that's testing me. Anyway, it ran a good race. So, but it didn't really stay out the 2000 in the Spring Champion. So
maybe a miles let's go. So you got to keep an eye out. In the Queensland Carnival, a lot of the Sydney horses that have run over middle distances drop back and run over a shorter distance in Queensland, but they're just better and they're fitter and they're harder. The most famous horse to do it was Winx.
Yeah.
Went from the ATC Oaks back to the Sunshine Coast Guineas over a mile, and that was the first of the winning streak, and then it went into the Queensland Oaks, which was only 2,200 metres that year because it was a Doomben, but I digress. The Victory Stakes over 1,200 metres is a Group 2 race for the sprinters. The favourite is the local favourite, Uncommon James, $2.60. Front page for Matt Dale is at $4.60. Antino first up, $6.50. Wee Nessie, $8. Prince of Boom is $9.50. A lot of local horses here.
You love a local horse in Queensland.
I love a local Queensland horse. I'm so biased.
I tell you what, I'm off Uncommon James. I've given it plenty of chances.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't seem to, like, they do well up there, the O'Day and Hoisted team.
They certainly do.
Yeah. Front page is an exceptional galloper.
Yep.
Like, he is a Group 1 horse, in my opinion. If I didn't have a slot in the Everest and I was late, he wouldn't be out of place.
Really?
I reckon
Well, he should be beating them then.
I think so. Like, Antino, is it a 1,200 metre horse?
I don't know that he's a 1,200 metre horse. I'm so biased.
He likes the fence, though.
But he can find trouble.
I know. He's like, I tell you that I was at track work yesterday morning, and Chris Hayward, who's one of Chris Waller's riders, was coming past, and I said, "Is that Espiona?" And he goes, "Yeah." And I said, God, that horse is always unlucky. And I was like, we were speaking about it, and then we were like, she doesn't actually do herself a lot of favours, though. I feel like Antino's a bit the same. Doesn't do himself too many favours. Got quirks.
Antino will get itself locked away and won't get a run in a 7-horse field over 1,400 at Flemington. It's just that sort of horse. And you can see it at the 600. Like, I back it and you go, this horse in this tiny field is not going to get a run.
Yeah. So anyway, what do you do?
Oh, I don't know.
So I'll take you on. I know you like Antino, but I'm going to take Front Page. I think it's a soft spot.
Well,
for
if
me.
it's a Group 1 horse, as you say it is, it wins this.
Yep.
Okay. We want to do some stable mail, which isn't the Owen anymore because we're not Owen anything because you keep giving us decent tips out of your stable. It's for Ladbroke communities. You ever wanted to connect, banter, or share tips with a group of diehard racing punters? Well, it's time to check out Communities. It's available on the Ladbrokes app. What's happening with the Freedman
We're
stable?
going to Bathurst.
I love
Royal
I love
Bathurst.
I love Bathurst. What about my first ever winner was your father trained it for me, Hell Sonic.
Oh, yeah, but that was a Saturday. That was a Sky 2.
Yeah,
and you've never
it was
seen,
a Sky
never seen, you can still go back if you want. You can see Chris O'Keefe. I think it's you. Were you there?
I wasn't
No,
there.
Chris O'Keefe went and he was throwing his hat up around the
I know.
200-meter mark, like just having the time of his life. So anyway,
And it won a maiden. It won $5 grand in a maiden on a Saturday at
the
Bathurst.
acceptances are today, so I don't know what she's drawn, but
What's the horse?
Successful is her name.
Successful. And so when's this meeting on?
Sunday.
Sunday at
So
Bathurst.
if you're reeling after a bad Saturday, which you won't be because I'll have tipped you many winners here,
then you'll be successful by the end of the...
yeah, you'll
What-
successfully get
is
back
it a
to par.
maiden or is
No,
it
it's a benchmark 58.
Oh, I love a BM 58 on a Sunday at Bathurst.
Yeah, so that's my one for this week.
Okay, I'm going to start up Time to Unload, and I don't care. I'm going with my heart, and I am unloading on Antino
When has your heart ever led you astray?
all the time in horse racing. Oh, my God.
And I'll take Shadows of Love. Look, it's an easy sort of bet to get around.
Shadows of Love.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to go Shadows of Love. We'll go Antino, and we're going to go Successful at Bathurst in the benchmark 58 on Sunday.
Yep. That's
Mate, now, Will, best of luck with that horse that didn't load in the trial. I'm worried about you.
Shivers. I'm looking forward to dealing with this after it.
Oh, I got a first-hand look at the trials and tribulations of a trainer today. Thanks very much for your company, everybody. Talk to you next week. See you, Will.